You are now entering the box. Demeion Brent.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Pleasure.
You guys want to introduce yourselves, who you're with, and what your roles are with the company?
Yeah, I'll start first. My name is Demeion Collins, General Manager with i3 Broadband in Springfield. I cover all of Central Illinois footprint.
Nice.
And I'm Brent Cordes. I'm the commercial sales exec for the Springfield and Jacksonville areas.
Awesome. How long's i3 been in the Springfield area now?
It's going on our fourth year year in Springfield. Yep.
Now, obviously, I'm sure broadband internet. Everyone knows about that. But what with i3? Like, why is that better? Like, what you guys are doing? Why is it better than your traditional like cable internet or something like that?
Yeah.
Just straight to the point here, because that's what I think is the main thing that everybody wonders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I'm going to
talk internet
with Brent. I mean, Brent has a great story with fiber and the difference between fiber and the competition. So.
Well, the big thing to keep in mind is the internet is really built on fiber. So when we talk about the World Wide Web and how it circles the globe, fiber won over copper back in the 1970s. All the telecom companies, your big dogs, have all switched over to fiber backgrounds because it can travel a lot farther, a lot faster. And the only reason we didn't do fiber in the 1990s was because there were existing networks already that could suffice for the speeds we needed. So telephone lines, we know they're slow. They can't do really good internet. Well, back in the 90s, they could, as good as we can do at that point. So they were already existing. Why go build a fiber network locally? Same thing. Then cable was able to pick up on it because, yes, cable used to just be TV. And then they said, you know what? We can also do internet through our copper lines. And that network existed, so they kind of phased out telephone after about 5 or 6 years. Well, we're to the point now where the speed demands are starting to build up to the point that copper's not going to be able to cut it. Because, again, what's going through the lines everywhere and around the world is all fiber, and we're just to the point to where it's got to go on fiber in order to catch up to those speeds. So you can just simply go a lot faster. We talk about gig speed. Gig speed is kind of where fiber starts. We do lower speeds, for things because you don't always have to have that. But eventually, not only are you going to need 1 gig, you're going to need several gigs as technology goes. And that's when copper flat out gets outpaced. It just can't keep up with what the new demands are going to become.
So fiber's always been the core of the internet, pretty much.
Yeah, think of it as telephone service. Yeah. So your Ma Bell and all of those. Again, back in the 70s, as the technology developed, they said that's what we need. It even got into the 1980s when there used to be lots of commercials, for those who have hair similar to the color of mine would remember, that they used to push, we've got a better network, we've got the best network. It was 1988, I believe it was, when Sprint actually finally had the first fully fiber network. So they were making a big deal out of it. We've got the best network. And they did. They actually had the best network. They had the full fiber network already put together, and everybody else was pretty close behind and had fiber then at that point. And then when fiber, or the internet, I should say, finally encircled the world, it was traveling on fiber.
Yeah. Wow. Man, I remember when cable first came around.
Yeah. Desperate to get that in the early 80s.
God, I was on the waiting list forever. I was playing a lot of video games back then, computer games, and I was on the waiting list, and I was like one of the first ones out of my friends to get. I was like, I got cable, and I'd start kicking everyone's ass on games because they, you had a faster speed, man. You didn't have that lag and everything in games.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly the demand for speed has changed.
Yeah, and I think a big, COVID made a huge impact. Our business quadrupled with COVID because people realized, hey, I need this consistency. I need fiber. And what they currently have right now.
Pull that guy just a little bit closer. There
what they currently have right now just wasn't getting it done for what they need, especially with teenagers, people playing video games, people working from home, all of a sudden needing Zoom and not just needing that 20 megabyte connection that they had before. They need something that's going to be sufficient. So COVID was a huge indicator in our industry as a whole. So, and I think another big thing with i3, how we separate ourselves is our customer service is number one. I would put our customer service up against any company. We care about every individual customer. We treat you just like we would treat our own family. There's no tricks. There's no gimmicks. What we offer you is what you're going to get. So I'm confident behind it. I stand behind i3. I've worked for some larger telecommunication companies, and nothing holds a candle to i3 Broadband. So I can say that with confidence.
How big's your guys' footprint?
We have over 30,000 active customers right now, but in Central Illinois, we cover everywhere from Peoria, Champaign, Springfield, Jacksonville, Lincoln, and Galesburg.
Okay.
So we have over 50,000 homes that we pass currently right now. And then we've also accelerated our footprint in Missouri, and then we're going up to the Northern Illinois this year as well. So
Nice.
We kind of surround St. Louis.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it like is i3 owned by like a bigger company, or is it a?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a private group that owns us, but we operate individually.
Yeah.
So,
I was just curious
Yeah.
because it can't be cheap to
roll
out
Yeah,
an
back
internet service.
When we first launched, we were actually first owned by Family Video, believe it or not. So
Oh,
it
were
was a
you?
small
Okay.
entity from Family Video, and we've gone through a couple different ownership groups, but our backbone has been.
What was it? Was it called i3 then?
No,
ITV3.
Yes.
ITV3.
Yeah.
Okay.
ITV3,
So
yeah.
Ace Sign Company, we
Yeah.
handled the Family Video account, and
Yep.
I remember when they were doing that, we wrapped maybe some vans or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what it came from.
Yep. So it evolved. So we changed ITV from ITV3 about, I want to say 11 years ago, and we rebranded with i3 Broadband. And kind
Gotcha.
of gone from there.
So is it still connected to the guys that owned Family Video at all?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's been changed a while back.
Yeah, we used to have a pretty good relationship with them when we were rolling out.
Yep.
They were still going hard, man.
Yeah.
Video stores were closing
yeah.
down, and they're rolling out video stores. I was like, you guys are really
Yeah,
pushing
and
to keep this around.
Yeah, now it really Family Videos have become like real estate investors.
Oh, yeah.
They own a lot of the
That's
property.
it now.
So you'll see a lot of Family Videos that are around now that now all of a sudden Dollar Generals or Marco's Pizza or
They were smart, man.
different entities.
Because they had the best spots, like corner spots, and
yeah.
they always owned.
Yeah.
They never rented. Yeah, they were smart with that. It was interesting as we were helping them with signs. There was always like these random, like, then they did Marco's Pizza. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. So
And-
you learn something every time you're doing this.
Absolutely.
I was going to step back a little bit. He mentioned COVID and where that sort of was the boon for fiber. And what that really came out of was because what happened at 8 o'clock just about every morning all of a sudden. People now had to jump on their computers because they had a conference call, Zoom call. Suddenly everybody had to learn about video conferencing. Part of the problem with that is that to do a proper video conference, you need upload. So there's two different types of speeds when it comes to internet. There's the download speed, which is you're streaming, you're bringing everything in. That's when you asked for something and the computer brings it to you. But upload speed is your video conference. And it's doubly deadly when it comes to a copper network because copper networks have to have a power hub somewhere fairly close. It could only go about 300 feet before it needs power. So it's really reliant upon a lot of individual little power points. That also requires them to kind of have to go through a network. So everybody that is in an area within 300 feet roughly of each other are kind of using the same internet. They're all intermingled at that hub. Now what happens at 8 o'clock in the morning when you get 13 people all of a sudden in the
Everybody try
neighborhood
to use
now
the
need to
same.
jump onto a video call all at 8 o'clock in the morning. That really aggravates a problem that your copper systems have because download speeds can get up to, they'll tout a gig, really 750 meg, something like that. Upload speeds, really limited, right about 40 megabits per second maximum, and most people don't have that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all those video calls really just sort of hit the most vulnerable part. And fiber is synchronous, so it is the same download speed you have as the upload speed you have. If you've got 100, you got 100 both ways. If you got a gig, you got a gig both ways. So it was made for video calls, and that's the reason why, again, it became a standard for telecoms.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't never thought about upload speed. Like I wouldn't even, I would never think about it if it wasn't for like video games back in the day. That was a big deal.
Absolutely.
And then obviously now we're uploading all kinds of
Yeah.
video and stuff to social media and stuff.
And I think
it's a
when
big
you
deal.
look at other providers as well, they're all 90% of the time they're only advertised download speed, right? They'll say, "Hey, come get this lightning fast X amount of speed," but they'll never tell you advertise what the download speed is. It's always in that fine print what it is. Ours is fully symmetrical because we know we're going to give you the best value, and we know that's what the consumers are going to need on both the residential and on the commercial side as well. So we're very proud of our product, and we know. And right now, that's not even our our maximum capability. Later this year, we got some exciting news coming out with some additional speed offerings as well.
So how's that work though? Like, what can fiber even support? Like, if you like the fastest possible speed that fiber could support, is there a number for that, or is it?
I think
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think I just saw. I don't
know if that's ever been tested, or is it?
There's been tests. I mean, I saw something on the internet the other day where somebody, in China, they did a speed test, 750 gigs over 750 gigs, right? Wow. There's a lot of possibilities you can do, right? But when you look at what is an average consumer actually going to use, that's when reality sets, right?
Yeah. I was curious.
But I mean, it could do a lot, right? So it just multi-gig is going to be the new gig internet, right? 4 or 5 years ago, if you had gig internet, you're the cream of the crop. Now, a lot of companies are peaking in the multi-gig options where you're looking at 2, 4, 6, 10 gigs. But then you always got to look at the reality. Is that what you need at your home if you're just checking your email every day? No, right? That's the thing about i3 Broadband. We sell to the customer. We're not here to oversell you. We want to give you what's the best fit for yourself. But our gig service is by far our number one product. But we have a kind of a menu that fits everybody's appetite.
So how do you guys typically most people probably don't know what they need. So what's like your standard process of like helping somebody figure out, I guess, what they need? Is you just talk about how they use it, what they're doing?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Discovery questions like that, but yeah.
The upload speed, again, is where it usually comes in. And that's where I want to know, are they doing video conferencing? Is there, for residential, is there a gamer in the house? They're going to love that. Cloud-based systems, which are now becoming more and more prevalent, are going to use your upload. So anything where you are doing some sort of activity that sends information away to another source becomes a big deal. So yeah, it's a matter of asking, how are you going to use this? What can we do to make it better?
Yeah, and a lot of right now you'll see a lot of residents customers switching over to streaming TV versus traditional TV, and that's a huge indicator as well. So even if you're elderly and you only use the internet for checking your email, but hey, now all of a sudden you're streaming content, the speed of the service you're getting.
Everybody now.
Exactly. The speed of the service you're getting is going to determine the quality of the TV that you have right now, right? Perfect example is DirecTV. To get actual DirecTV stream, their new internet-based platform, the bare minimum is 30 megabytes per second, but they recommend you have 300 megabytes or higher to give you the max experience.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an example there.
Nothing's more frustrated, man. You get that spinning circle.
Oh my gosh.
And if you ever want to know,
people are so spoiled nowadays with that too.
Man. What's going on? It's taking 2 seconds to upload my video. This is
remember,
crazy.
With my buddies, when we first had CD burners. And my buddy, he was the first one to have one, and we'd be downloading songs to burn a CD, and it would take like all day to down, back on like Napster or something. It'd take like all day to download like 10 MP3s. It's like, this is terrible.
Yeah, if you ever want to know where technology is going and what, where bandwidths are going to go, is just watch the television market, because that's really where it is at this point. And you start watching how
anything probably
it is. In any given house or even business, if you've got video running in any direction, that is taking the most.
Yeah,
and
video just keeps getting higher quality.
Yeah.
Yep.
Larger files.
Yep. So we went from standard to HD TV in the 90s, kind of when the internet came around really at the same time. It was about 48 years it took to go from point A to point B. It took about 14 years for 4K, for UHD to come in and become a thing. Well, now, at that time, you could mostly get an HD TV in Walmart, and, there was not very many standard televisions. Well, we're at the point now where you can't get an HD TV. They're all 4K, and there's 8Ks that are in there.
Creeping in.
And you're going to see it took 7 years to go from 4K to 8K. It took 3 years. You can see the progression. It just keeps cutting in half. And they just standardized, I believe it was last year, Sony, because of their big Trons in New York, where they're 3-story tall TV screens and that. They have a 16K standard now. They've set, here's how it's going to be put together and how that works. I don't expect to see that in anybody's home anytime soon.
Yeah.
But it exists, and it took a year and a half, as you would think, between getting from 8K to 16K. And what we're going to start seeing is you're going to stop seeing as many 4K TVs eventually in Walmart. You start seeing 8Ks. Right. We just saw Netflix just raise the rate on their standard package, but they lowered the amount in order for you to get the 4K enhancement. to go from standard to the 4K. So what they're trying to do is normalize everybody having 4K, because eventually they're probably going to raise the rates again, but it'll be 4K's thrown in.
Right.
But there's an 8K premium. And we're going to see that. And every time that happens, you need more internet. It's got to go faster. So that's how things are progressing right now.
Man, the price of TVs too. Remember how expensive they used to be to get a flat screen? Man, oh my God, that was so expensive. And it's crazy how fast that stuff happens. How do you think? And this is like somewhat off topic, but I always like try to guesstimate how long radio will really stay around. What do you got? You got any thoughts on that? I mean, you've been in you've been in the
you're
business
hurting my
for a
heart.
while,
Yeah,
right?
I spent 10 years in radio.
That's
So
what
this,
I thought. That's why I'm curious, because like it's. I mean, like you get in your car. Your phone hooks right up to your car. I never listen to the radio unless it's like some reason pops on, like before my phone connects or something. It's there.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll turn it on to see who's advertising on there. But yeah,
I don't know that I can predict that, unfortunately, because there is always a spot for local, and right now your local production, yourself may be accepted. You don't have an avenue on the internet so much to get that local effect so much. So your radio stations are still your spot for that. But that kind of kills the music end of it. Now it's purely informational. Now your news channels.
I feel like
the
only things that get listened to are like the popular radio, like Sam Madonia. You know what I mean? Like these people that have a following. Like I think past that, you know what I mean? And really, those people could go and do it on their own on a podcast if they wanted to,
Yeah.
And they'd get the same thing. Because they could go live. I mean, you can go live. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just interesting to see what people think, especially with you been in the business and stuff.
Yeah, and you still see a lot of people on the sports end, right? You see a lot of people listen to traditional radio on the sports end, but like you said, there's just so many other avenues to be able to get that content the same way. I think it's just like newspapers. There's always going to be that small percentage of people that still like that paper in their hand, looking at the newspaper, reading the articles every single day.
Which I understand. It's kind of nice.
Most people are going the other way, right? Same thing with radio. I think there's still going to be that person that, hey, I wanted to be able to turn on the radio and listen to that radio for 6 hours every single day. But majority of the people are finding different avenues to be able to get it. And I mean, the more people. So I always look at it this way too. Like the more people that are in that way that, hey, I want to listen to radio all the time, they're also not going to be driving in the car all the time. They're going to be transitioning and maybe listening to the radio at home or listening to the radio over the internet. Yeah. So there's just different ways, and even radio stations themselves have now found alternative ways to do it and converted to podcast style instead of traditional
stream
radio
on their
style.
websites and stuff.
So
and that's what I would think. Like, streaming on their website.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting, man.
And you still get local events. So that's where, who else is going to go sit down at a high school football game and play the game for the people that couldn't make it there that night,
Yeah.
So it's that local impact.
But they have, like, there's a streaming service that you could pay, like, a few bucks a month and, like, watch the game. Yeah. I think Williamsville does it, and I think a lot of local high schools do it, and you can watch the game.
And that's an outcropping from COVID. Because you had at one point limited crowds, so they had to come up with some sort of video plan. And now those video plans, they're starting to cooperate with the schools, integrate them into now paid services. Some still free, just throwing it on YouTube. But you're right, there is a network where you can watch high school football games about anywhere you want to.
Yeah,
but you got to pay for it.
For sure. I mean, how's someone going on with we use this crazy software for. They asked me to announce a dodgeball game. The team. Oh my God, I can't believe I can't think of it. Team RWF. Is that what it was? Team RWF. Anyway, it's a group that like helps veterans like bring them back into the community and network and stuff like that. But they hosted a charity game to raise money for the Salvation Army, and they asked me to come announce it. And we used this software that allowed us to set up. We set up 4 phones. We had 4 phones, one looking at one court up on the top balcony, one looking at another on top balcony. I had one looking at me. He carried one around, and then I think I had one more just looking out at the court.
That's awesome.
from the floor, and from an iPad, I was switching between all these phones while we were we were announcing the thing, and I was like, "Man, this is crazy!
Yeah,
we just have all these phones, and they're all connected, and you can literally, it's like we're doing a TV production right here with a bunch of phones."
Yeah. Back in the late 80s when I got started, you used to have to call the schools, see about getting a phone line hooked up through the phone company so that you can plug in through the 4-jack phone line, and just that was it. You know, you got a new phone number, and then you kept it open for the season, and that was, you plugged into it. That was all. That's all you had. So it's
so weird. Did you do sales for radio? What was your background?
Yeah, because if you do air on the radio, a lot of times you'll also do sales if you're in a small station. So it would always be a morning show and do talk or music, whichever it would be at that time.
You did that too then?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
cool.
in the afternoons you'd go out and you'd meet people, which is always fun.
Yeah. So what was kind of your progression? How'd you get with i3?
How'd I end up here?
Before that.
So I had a 10-year career off of radio, which was fun. And the lady that got me into it actually got involved in the phone directory company. It was GTE back in that day. And she says, "Hey, I just got promoted. You're going to come work for me Monday." I'm like, what? Well, she didn't realize at that time that radio station was actually kind of disintegrating around me at the time. There were issues and things going on. There was embezzling happening, and I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't so bad. I still made her take me to dinner at Jumer's on Sunday and convince me that was a good idea. But I'm thinking, it's a pretty good idea. So
nice.
I actually got into the phone business for 18 years.
Wow.
I was with phone directories, and I was asked the question at one point, so when do the phone books go away? And at that time, GTE had started the phone book on the internet called the Super Pages, and but you had to go to a website. You had to pull your phone out and go to the Super Pages website and all that. And it was a State Farm employee. I was up in Bloomington, and he said, when's that going to happen? I go, when you can pull that phone out and then just ask for what you want, and it gives it to you. That's when the phone books are in a lot of trouble. I said, that's the end. And that's exactly what happened.
Now you just talk to it.
Yeah. All that information that went from, was GTE, Verizon, IDR, Super Pages, all that, ended up in the hands of Google through an agreement that we had with them, and then Google ran with it. That was the end of it.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Got the feet wet.
So I decided, how about I get into an industry that is actually the future
there you go, yeah.
instead of, the past.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to remember which company he worked for. Do you ever talk to Steve Peralta? He worked for he did phone book sales, I think, for a while. I don't remember what
probably
company.
Dex here out of Springfield or something.
Remember what he said it was.
I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, he did that for a while. Yeah. So that's phone books. They still got them coming out. Every once in a while you get one. I'm like, where did this come from?
It hurts my heart because even, in the last years when I was there was people kind of putting them down hard, and rightfully so. It was running into the end. But now I see one and I'm kind of like, it still hurts my heart because I think that way a little bit now. But there is an audience. They're generally 70 plus. Yeah. But they'll still want to see the phone book, and that's all right. We'll give it to them.
How about you? What was your background?
Yeah. So after college, got my business degree.
Where'd you go to school at?
Northern Illinois.
Okay.
DeKalb, Illinois.
Nice.
Went there. Actually, did 8 years in banking world. So I was in the banking world in the Chicagoland area for about 8 years. I was a retail manager there. And, when I decided to move to Springfield about 7 years ago, decided to change industries, do something fun, and I got into telecommunications. So working with a different internet provider here in town, and did retail management there, and was did very well and loved the community impact. But, there was one of my old colleagues actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm worked at this place called i3 Broadband. I think it's going to be great." And it's funny, it took about 3 times for him saying that before I actually jumped ship, because I was like, I'm happy here. I'm good. I'm comfortable. And then he's like, "Man, there's something special going on here." And I was just like, "All right, fine. We'll go to dinner. We'll talk about it." And T-bone steak later, I was signing my name on the document, and we're here. So
nice.
Started as the market manager in Springfield here about 4 years ago. And then last year got promoted to general manager of all of Central Illinois. So
nice. Congratulations.
Extremely excited. I mean, it's just a exciting place to be, and gives you a lot of say-so, right? And one of the cool things about i3 Broadband, I tell people all the time, is, we can make the decisions on the local level, versus working for a larger organization where everything has to go through some third-party state that they make decisions out of, right?
Yeah.
And every person matters here, and every voice counts. So I love it, and I'm excited to see what the future is going to take us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's your current coverage, I guess, of Springfield?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much we expanded out to Chatham, so we covered all of Chatham.
Nice.
Springfield, we're primarily on the west side. Now we've kind of ventured out towards like Washington Park area, and then we got more footprint off of Jefferson.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now, but we're continuing to rapidly grow, looking at some different agreements with the city, CWLP, getting partnering with them and expanding out to different parts of Springfield as well. But super excited.
How's that work? Like, do you have? I mean, there's got to be a lot of coordination with the city, right?
Oh yeah,
because you're running all underground mostly.
Yeah, 100% underground. Yeah, so it's a lot of coordination with the city. So even from coming into the city, you can't just show up one day and say, "Hey, I'm building fiber here." No, there's got to be an agreement with the city. There's permits involved. There's you got to meet with the mayor and the construction team here with the city, talk about what our goals are. Every year we got to submit, hey, these are our ideas. These are the areas we want to go. What kind of infrastructure are we going to run into? What kind of problems are we going to run into? A lot of coordination because obviously everything has to get located before we bury anything. And again, we have a monthly. Well, about every other month we have a stand up with the city. Say, hey, these are our plans. This is where we're at right now. Hey, how can we help you guys? And then they also look to partner with us as well to, hey, we'd love for you right now. We're working to get to the east side of Springfield to work with some projects with the city. So things like that to bring everything full circle.
So do you usually have to like bury new stuff, or are there like existing, I don't even know, like shit that you run it through? I don't know what's under there. Conduit, yeah.
A little bit of both, depending on where you are. In business areas, sometimes you might be utilizing some existing channels, but somebody owns that, so there's licensing and all of that. And if you can run something of your own, you run it your own. But when you're talking about our residential areas and all, there's not existing conduit in the ground most of the time. So there's a heart attack for a lot of folks because there hasn't been big infrastructure adds into neighborhoods for a lot of years. And the last time it happened, it was really cable, and that was mostly just strung up on poles. Now it's a lot cheaper and a lot faster to do it that way, but we decided to future-proof this technology and put it all in the ground. Keep it all safe. So you'll see those big spools with the orange tubes on them. That's just conduit. That's 2-inch, round stuff, and that gets stuck in the ground, and everything goes inside those channels, so it's all protected and safe. And it's a little bit of a freak out when we start digging handholes in people's yards and burying a vault in there because nothing's been dug in people's yards in the easements in some time. But it all goes back really well. It looks, when it's done, you never even know, and it only takes like a couple of days, and it's they're gone, and it doesn't look like somebody was digging over there.
It's so weird. Like I don't know. Anytime I see anybody doing that, I'm like, there's got to be so much stuff under there. Like, you know what I mean? And it's you think about the future. Like, when does all this start building up so much? Like, it would be nice if there was just a giant conduit under there that everybody could just easily run their stuff in,
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff, so that's why obviously we got to call Julie before we bury anything. The point of it is we got to mark everything. So so before we go live, we call Julie, say, hey, we're going to be marking here within 3 business days, for example. Every other utility has 3 days to come and mark it. So before we bury anything, we get a great visualization of, hey, what is here? Because number one, 90% of the time we're going to use public easements. So public easements, generally the city is going to know what's there anyway, but we got to know where it is so we don't hit it as well. So last thing we want to do is cause a headache for the city or inconvenience somebody else because it wasn't marked correctly, right? So our job is to do it right the first time.
Yeah. So I don't know, you guys might not even know this, but if something's bare, how close do they allow you to get to stuff?
Fiber is completely inert, which is a good part about it. Okay, so it's a piece of polymer glass combination that goes through there, and so it's not putting out any sort of electromagnetic field. So if it gets near another copper line, it doesn't matter. It has no interaction with anything. So and when you mention that, that's really and again, I'm a little bit out of my element. I'm not the construction guy,
it's kind of
but
a random question.
There's a lot of things. A lot of utilities are buried at different depths, and so you learn which ones are buried, how far they should be underground there, and we've kind of got our depth, so we know where we're going to be in relationship to everything else in there. So in general, you're not really trying to go around something. You already have it planned. You should be just going either above or in between, or
Yeah, it's so weird. You wonder when, like, someday there's got to be so much stuff all buried around.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happens then?
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's good. You don't got to worry about it, anything interfering with it. You know?
Well, remember, every wired technology is eventually replaced by a wireless.
Mm-hmm.
We're not anywhere close to that when it comes to our internet delivery yet.
Right.
I mean, there is wireless systems and all, but it's limited, very limited in how much it can actually send. Even comparing, I hear some people say, "Well, what about 5G? Can I just do cellular in my house?" And I go, "Well, that's good if you're mobile." But the speeds aren't even beginning to be comparable. You're not going to get a gig off of a cellular at all.
Yeah.
In the future, who knows? Maybe. But we're not anywhere even close to that. That technology doesn't exist at this point. So
it's hard to believe that we could even get to that point without it, like, hurting us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I'm close to the receiver
BB
and I just
gig
got
internet
cooked.
through my head.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine. Yeah. It's got to be. Who knows? They probably won't ever tell us.
Yeah. Well, this currently it's a little bit like the Wild West when it comes to fiber. Okay, so every little town everywhere is starting to get fiber.
Yeah.
And some of the little towns who didn't have cable are getting fiber first because there's a government program where the company, if they want, can get the grants to go in and install a town. So I know of a couple of small towns that never had cable and they've got fiber long before, even before residents in many parts of Springfield have it at this point. So,
Sherman, we're out in Sherman and they upgraded ours. They're like, yeah, we're switching everything to fiber.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. Does it cost me more money?
Usually not. Usually less, and a lot of people get confused by that. It's the new technology. Why does the new technology cost more? Because we mentioned those power points that copper has to have. Well, electricity is expensive. Copper is expensive. So that's just a lot of architecture that has to be there, or a lot of infrastructure has to be in place for a copper network to run. Fiber doesn't have to have that. So I say you can go 300 feet before you need to repower, a copper line. You can go 64 miles on a fiber filament.
Holy shit.
So we generally run everybody all the way back to the main backbone.
Yep.
Wow.
Every single customer. So they're not interfering. They're not on a network with anybody. Everybody goes all the way back to the backbone.
That's awesome. The wire they brought in was so little.
Oh. Yeah.
I was like, man, that's a little ass
scary,
wire,
yeah.
man. Is that thing gonna work right?
Oh, it's probably, And I'm thinking one thing too to hit on with i3 is we're one of the only 100% fiber to the home or to the business providers, right? So a lot of people that might advertise fiber. So instead of having fiber directly to you, they might have fiber somewhere in your neighborhood, and then they use coax to get to you, right? Not 100% fiber. So I always tell people, be mindful, because when they say fiber, say, hey, is that 100% fiber? Say, what do you mean? Is that 100% right to the home or to the business? Or is it 100%, or is it fiber to the backbone? Because that's going to also dictate the kind of quality you're going to get as well. So it's one of those things, that continues to separate us. But I always tell people, the goal for us to come to a community, number one, is to drive competition. So we go to so many communities where these other towns had a monopoly on these towns for so long, the people didn't even have an option. We come in here, hey, we want to give you a choice. Whether you take us today or you take us in 3 years or you don't take us at all, we hope that's going to drive competition and drive pricing for you and your community.
Yeah.
That's going to be the positive. We would love 100% of everybody to take our services, but we know that's not realistic. So I think that's another value that people don't realize. When we do come to these communities, what we're doing is driving that competition, because there's nothing worse than having only one option for something. Yeah. And your bill keeps going up and up and up, and then you call them and say, they're like, hey, what are you going to do? Tough. This is what it is. Hey, enjoy that extra $80 a month, right? That's the reality of some people, unfortunately, right? So we give people a different option and different alternative.
It's crazy businesses can even do that.
Oh, it's illegal. Monopolies are illegal, but the problem is,
well, not even the monopoly. I just mean increasing your bill,
and that's one of the objections.
The monopoly, but man, that happened with my trash service at one point. It's happened with my, not out in Sherman, but before it's happened. And where the bill just keeps going up. It's like, what's going on here? Like, how can you just keep increasing this thing? It's crazy.
That is one of the objections I have to overcome a lot. And I have to remember the perspective of the people. Their experience has been, it's going to go up on me every year. Yeah. Even though I'm locked into a contract, it's going to go up on me every year. We don't do that. We just don't. We have no contract for residential folks at all. Business we do, because then we're going under concrete and doing things, but we don't charge for that.
Yeah.
So we ask for just a little bit of time so we can actually recoup on that. But they are often afraid that, well, if I'm in this now, how much is it going to go up every year? And I go, well, let's use Jacksonville as an example. So Jacksonville, we've got customers there that are now 3 years. They're just getting there, 2.5, 3 years. They've been customers of ours that we've been built over there. And we're starting to upgrade a lot of those customers over there. We've got older packages that were slower at the time because at the time they didn't need as much because the demand wasn't as much. But for maybe $10 more, 15, depending on where the packages are, you can double your speed, triple your speed maybe, and now do that. Or leave it where it is. It's whatever you want to do. You know, you can pay $10 more and get a much faster speed that we're offering with the package now. And again, or just leave it. We're not just going to raise it on you.
Yeah,
we're obviously going to give you something more. And that's the way demand's going. As demand keeps going up, as Demeion said, the 1 gig is kind of like the standard now. It's going to be multiple gig here pretty soon. We're going to start hearing about that. Will we need that? Eventually we will.
Yeah.
And
That's bizarre.
so the 1 gig somebody's got today, 5 years from now, they're like, wow, man, we need 4 gig. Okay.
It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, no, we had a
Really?
we had I was at an event this Saturday. We had a lady come in and she was talking about her son, and they just recently switched over to i3 fiber, and they had another DSL provider in town, and she was telling me that now all of her buddies' friends bring their console over to download any update because otherwise it's going to take them all day to do it on the network they have already. So,
well, and the other thing on video game systems now, like it's almost all digital, like the games.
Yes, yeah. If you want to buy a game, I mean, it's going to take you 3 days to download that game, or come in here, we can download in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah,
huge difference. So it's just things like that you don't think about. That's the kind of impact it can make. So, we're both ecstatic with what we can offer the community. And again, just fiber in general, even if it's not i3 broadband for whatever odd reason, if we're not in your footprint, look into getting fiber wherever you're at, because that's the future. And if you don't have fiber right now and it's available to you, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Save you future headaches.
Yeah.
I did just have somebody ask me, he's in another town. He says, they're digging holes in my yard now. He says, do I switch to fiber? I go, yeah. I said, I don't know who your company is, but yeah, you switch to fiber.
Yes.
That's just that's what you do.
It's
It's going to be better.
Say yes, and we'll figure out the logistics later. Yes,
Do you still have a home phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. So what about so how are you guys getting your message out there? What's your main, obviously, we talk a lot about marketing and stuff here.
Yeah.
How do you guys get to go about that? I know you said they give you a lot of freedom, as a, locally to do what you choose. So do you guys choose that stuff, or do they still on the larger scale handle the marketing?
On the larger scale, we still have some of the things that we do as a company as a whole, but everybody locally, all the general managers, I have counterparts in every other territories of our service. We're able to work with our team members internally to make those decisions. So we're partnering with local teams, local boys and girls groups, educational centers, things that are going to help make an impact that really service what i3 broadband represents. We're also doing things like we call them pop-up events. So every weekend we go to a neighborhood in our area that we serve. We talk to people about our services. We're going to have food trucks and ice cream trucks and all kinds of stuff. But the point is to really just get people to come talk to us about i3 broadband and the benefit we can have. Because I think that a lot of we've got in Springfield, we got over 2,500 customers between Springfield and Chatham, which is good, but we probably have access to over, I'd say, about 12,000 additional homes in the footprint that we could service. Yeah. And I think the challenge is sometimes those people are like, we go to a neighborhood, either the people that want to switch right away, or you have the people who are like, well, let me see what my neighbors or my friends say about it. Or you have the people that say, well, if it's not broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right? Our job is like, hey, let's educate you. So, I always call it the i3 challenge. Let me challenge you to try i3 broadband. There's risk-free. We do a 30-day money-back guarantee. There's no contract for our residential services. No fees for your install. I mean, there's literally zero risk for you to try our services out. And we're betting on ourselves that, hey, we're going to not only get this person to try, but they're going to fall in love with us and they're going to stay with us forever. That's what we're betting on. But the marketing, we're looking to partner with, we did a partnership here with the pool. So we're doing the pool center. What's it? I forgot the name of it, but we're the local pool center in Chatham, Springfield, and Lincoln. So we're
like swimming pool?
Yeah, swimming pool. Yeah.
Knights
Action Park. Action Park. Yeah. So we're doing a partnership with Knights Action Park. So we're partnering with them and i3 Broadband. We're looking to do something with the horseshoes here this summer for their baseball stadium.
Nice.
Just things like that are going to be what the community's doing. So be on the lookout. I3 is going to be all over the place this summer.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about from a social media aspect?
Yes. So we have a social media team on our part of our marketing team. So we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do local. So we try to get into like local social media groups, so like the Facebook groups and Instagram groups, specifically in the markets that we choose. To not only advertise, but to say, hey, we're here available. Let's answer the questions. Any neighborhood we go to, we work with our social media team to attract those people. Obviously, we got the old school digital, the digital marketing. So we do the digital marketing. We do the old postcards and mailers as well. But more of what we're doing is the digital footprint and getting people's attention. And if anybody's watching this, they probably have a poster or two from ours for the last couple of years. But those ways are kind of antiquated, right? So now it's going to be more the digital ways, in your face, guerrilla level marketing is what we call it. Getting on the ground, talking to people, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing whatever we need to do to make sure people understand who we are, the value that we bring. Yeah. And most people, honestly, they're like, well, this is just too good to be true. That is really the reaction we get from most people. This is too good to be true. You guys are just going to be just like the other guys. I promise you we're not. Yeah. Right? And that's the best part about it.
Yeah, everything, I mean, based on what you said, I think from my perspective, something that would be super helpful for you is from you talk about going to these neighborhoods and challenging people to try stuff, and you get a lot of like, well, let me see what my neighbor does, or let me see about this, or it's too good to be true. To me, that automatically speaks to getting video testimonials from people that are using your services and having them say, I've had this for 2 years. I've never increased my rate. My internet's never been faster. And their customer service is A1.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden, like, hey, Johnny, I saw you giving testimonials. Is that really that good? You know what I mean? Everybody that knows them, and if you market it, if you run the ads on those videos in that neighborhood of where that person gave that testimonial from, probably everyone there's going to know them.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think, so right now we do, on our website, we take the written testimonies, but we have not gone down the route for video. But the events I was talking about on Saturday, we call them pop-up events. Those are all active customers in areas that we serve that have agreed to let us use their front yard or their driveway to be able to do it. That's their way of saying, hey, I vouch for these guys. Come on to John Smith's neighborhood on Saturday at my house. I'm going to have I3 Broadband host.
That's great.
And then we parlay that with a food truck, ice cream truck, coffee and donuts, different things to attract people. But then to say, hey, Johnny loves us. Hey, why wouldn't you try us out? I think that's been very successful thus far.
Yeah, I like that.
And at this point, we can introduce them to people from Peoria that have had us for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
There's been fiber there that long, through us, in 7 or 8 years through Champaign.
Nice.
And I'm not going to, the marketing folks are going to have a heart attack that even brought up Net Promoter Score, but that's kind of a big deal because so many companies in our industry have a negative Net Promoter Score, meaning that people are way more unhappy with them than they are happy with them. And that's the reputation we walk into because that was their reality. We have a significantly positive Net Promoter Score, more on par with other standard businesses.
Gotcha.
And we find that the longer we're in an area, the higher our score gets. And it all has to do with the fact that the first time they do have a challenge, the first time they have it, and we don't say, well, how does next Thursday work between 10 and whatever. We don't do
between
that.
8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Yeah. Exactly. Is somebody at home? Is there somebody at home this afternoon? And like, what? Yeah. And we don't have many problems. But when we do, they are all over them. Yeah. We take a lot of care in making sure things are put in right in the first place. It's our own people that are doing all the connections. So if there ever is an issue, it's usually software. It could be fixed on the phone via somebody in Peoria. And done. And so our score just goes up, and I think it's not from people not having issues. I think it's people who have actually experienced something and are like, wow, this was actually different. And so we take a lot of pride in that, but we always have to kind of reality check ourselves and remember we're in an industry that has abused folks for a long time. Yeah. And so we have to kind of remember that we keep presenting ourselves and reminding folks that we're different, and it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way.
Right.
And
yeah, and I think a lot of it, so when you look at how we treat people, I said this at the top of the interview, how we treat people is going to be second to none. I call it all the time here is white glove treatment. We give everybody the service that we would give, our best friend, our colleague, our family member. Anything that ever happens, I'll be the first to tell you, is everything perfect? No. Is there things that are going to happen? Sure. But it's how you respond to things is what matters.
Yeah.
And like Brent was highlighting, we pride ourselves in having a 24-hour return. So if something you can call me right now. If we can't get to it by the end of the business day, you better bet your butt we're going to get it by tomorrow.
Nice.
It's just, and all that stuff filters to the top, which is me, right? So I want to make sure that I'm serious. I take pride in making sure.
I don't want to hear
that. I take pride in making sure every customer's taken care of. We put a bow on it. Is there some things that are outside of our element or our realm? Sure, we're gonna give it a hell of a try to fix it. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be some things that, hey, this is something from a different company that you bought that I'm not sure how to fix it. But if it's something that we can control, we can get our hands around, we do it all the time. So the kind of stuff that separate us, and like even the things like when we need to come back out and do a truck roll for you, it's completely complimentary. We don't charge you we're not going to charge you $80 to $100 to come fix your router. We're going to come out there for free. And that's the
truck
kind of
roll.
thing.
I mean, just sending somebody out.
Yeah, truck roll. Yeah, just truck roll is when you're getting installed, or if you have to dispatch somebody to come and fix something, or somebody to troubleshoot. Other providers in the area, they're going to charge between $75 to $100 every time, including your first time getting installed, to be able to get installed. Mm-hmm. Where we do the complete opposite. We're not going to charge you a penny because we're going to invest that into the customer, right? And by doing that, you get the return. That customer's going to stay with you longer. The word of mouth spreads. A lot of our customers come from word of mouth, meaning I got the services, I told my neighbor to get the services, and the neighbor signed up for services, right? There's no better compliment to us than getting a referral. Yeah. Right?
Word of mouth.
So
that's how we've pretty much grown here for the most part. Either somebody seeing our content and reaching out, or some existing client recommending us to somebody. Yeah. You can't beat that.
Absolutely.
Those are always the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about a lot. You talk a lot about the customer service there. I know you guys joined SILSA not too long ago. Have you guys got to go to any events yet?
Yeah, I've been to 2 events so far.
Okay,
Yep.
Oh yeah, you were just at the O'Shea one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I love it. I think it's I honestly, when I walked into that, first of all, O'Shea's is a beautiful building, number one.
Yeah, it's nice.
But when I walked in and just seeing the outpouring of the community and the people that were there, and people that I've seen in the business and Brent's seen in the business that we interact with all the time, this was kind of a hidden thing. I was referred by a current member, and I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, just the content and the everybody was so friendly and welcoming, right? That is the thing that separated me. And for me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to, as soon as I even heard about it, I was like, this can't be real. Just touche what I said earlier. This can't be real.
Yeah.
And I joined immediately, and I think it's going to be great for not only our branding with i3 Broadband, but being
Seems
able
like
to.
it's really in line with, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
With what you guys got going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, they approached me at one point about helping them with some stuff and checking it out. And when I went, I was like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
And I loved it because it was, I always say this, so it's probably kind of repetitive, but I love that it was I always felt like it's quality over quantity, because they only meet like 4 or 5 times a year for things, but it's like this awesome speaker, and usually a lot of people come, and it like just feels more like I'm getting more out of it than if I'm going to something every single week or month or something. Yep. I love being a part of that group. It's a great group.
Yeah, now I'm looking at some. I already got a tailgate coming in September. I'm excited about.
That's fun.
So
That's more like a little fun event.
Yeah.
There's one May 12th. Stephanie Stuckey.
Yeah.
Stephanie Stuckey. I know the last name Stuckey for sure. Yeah. But she. Have you ever heard of Stuckey's? They have the all pecan rolls.
Yeah.
So the Motorheads used to be a Stuckey's. So she's coming and she's doing the talk there the morning of May 12th. And apparently, I've never had it, but apparently Motorheads has killer breakfast too. So
really?
Some of my team was like, we're staying around for breakfast afterwards, right? I was like, oh, I guess we could do that. But yeah, she's got a cool story about, because her family, they somehow at one point like lost the business, and then she ended up getting it back. And it just seems like it's going to be a good little story to hear, and from her perspective. But yeah, you guys will love being a part of that group. You should definitely come out if you haven't been to any of them. They're good. The who else have they had? We saw they had, I don't know, man. They have so many good speakers. Yeah. It's awesome. So what's next for you guys? Just offering, servicing more addresses and.
Yeah, I think for us, we're continuing this year. Our big focus in Springfield is really going after some of our older areas that we've already built that we have not visited in over a year or 2 years, right? So again, I said earlier, this is going to be our 4th year fourth build season in Springfield, and while we still got areas that we're building as well, I want to make sure we're going back to the beginning and going to some of those older neighborhoods, having some of those events, connecting with people that have had us for multiple years, and really understanding what number one, what's kept you around for this long, what can we do to improve. We send out the surveys annually about every customer, but realistically, not everybody takes those surveys. So I like to get boots on the ground and go shake those hands and talk to people about why they're staying with i3 Broadband, get some testimonials and some feedback of how we can improve moving forward and ability to add more to our footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting over the next few years because, as I mentioned, it's sort of the Wild West right now. All these fiber companies are expanding and covering every town, and we're trying to get our way through Springfield. And 3 to 5 years from now, there will be technologies that we really didn't know were in existence and popping up because there's a lot of those things that already exist. They're in place, but it's like we can't get this to enough people. Not everybody's got the bandwidth necessary to start doing this. So in 3 to 5 years, pretty much everybody's going to have the availability of fiber. And when that happens, now the companies that have the different technologies that are sitting and waiting are going to start springing out. So it's pretty exciting. Over the next few years, we're going to see some amazing things happen when it's presumed that everybody should have the bandwidth to be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you just even look at what phones can do now, they're not even on that fast of internet, but how much it's changed and the things that it allows you to do on a phone. It's crazy. And you mentioned it earlier, but yeah, cloud computing and all the technologies based around the cloud are crazy.
Mm-hmm. I could see it maybe where you wouldn't even have resident stuff on a laptop. A laptop might simply be a processor and a connection to whatever source that you have, and you don't have to worry about all of that. Your hard drive won't even exist in your computer to a major extent. It'll all be cloud-based.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Google Chromebooks pretty much are. They barely have any hard drive space. We don't keep a lot on our computers. Yeah. So we have server, you know what I mean, and then a lot of mostly Google. Mm-hmm. So we don't keep much on our computers, like fonts and Adobe programs and stuff. But even a lot of the Adobe, even some of their stuff now, some of their filters and stuff they run are coming out, process in the cloud, like to do effects and stuff like that. How about, obviously something that's super popular, or I shouldn't say super popular, but super big right now is like AI. How do you see that affecting your industry? Have you thought about that at all, or have you guys talked about that as a business at all?
Well, as far as us addressing it as some sort of business usage or what, I don't know, and I'm not sure how that applies. But anything that's going to draw a large amount of bandwidth to and from obviously has a direct impact on us because that's what we do. So when AI starts coming out and they start having, you start having a almost living person on your computer interact with, that's a lot of data that's got to go back and forth. Quite frankly, that's video. And so that's just a lot of speed and a lot of demand.
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting, man. Have you guys played with it at all?
Not really, besides listening to some Drake and Rihanna songs on AI. That's as far as I've gotten. But yeah, no, I've this weekend I was actually reading about some stuff, but it's interesting. Very, very interesting. Right?
It's really weird the stuff you can do with it.
Yeah.
When COVID hit or whatever, I would come to the studio, but then my team would be at home, and but I'd have their computers on and they'd just be remotely dialed in. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they were using. I mean, you talk about using freaking bandwidth. Like they were using their computers, here at the studio. Well, not this studio, the old one, but from home. So there was, and they're editing videos and stuff doing it. So there's definitely some bandwidth flow in there. Yeah. So that was probably a big thing too, besides just web calls. I bet I would imagine there were several people, throughout the world like that doing.
Well, we've got FaceTime on our phones now. I've got one last teenager in the house, and she's always connected to a friend. You can always just say hi to whoever's on her phone at the time because she's just walking around the house talking to a friend. I could see at some point that our televisions will become that extension in our house. They might even be integrated somehow. Yeah. So suddenly now these kids will be up on the big TV with the webcam as an integrated thing where you can just, because you can select into the TV, but I could see maybe a much tighter integration coming up. And start thinking about that. Now there's your almost full time Zoom call going on a screen.
Yeah.
And that's
we
a lot
were
of
doing
bandwidth.
that. Hell, I talked to my friends in other states more than I talked to them when COVID's not going on. Because we would get in like chats, you know what I mean? We'd get the webcam set up and get in chats, and I'd connect my laptop to the TV so it was big so I could see everybody. And
then there's crazy stuff like holograms. You know, you can say, well, that's a futuristic thing. And I go, well, it is.
I thought about that one.
But, you know, because we talk about looking at somebody on a screen, well, think of it in the Star Wars context where there's somebody's projected and standing on the table. That isn't too far off. The technology exists.
Hell, they got the friggin' rappers, singers doing
And most of the time,
Tupac concert going on.
And what they've got is a huge processor in the back that is running the projectors to do that. Well, now think about it. If you've got the bandwidth, you can send that now. And it doesn't have to be just there on the stage. You can actually just here's my camera, so to speak, and then they've got theirs, and then you're standing there talking to each other.
Yeah.
And that, again,
3D
will take
feeling.
a lot of bandwidth. My understanding is if you go full size, that's at least a 10 gig speed requirement sort of thing. So a full size, human-sized, full-color hologram of somebody is about 10 gigs worth of speed.
Really?
And we'll see. We're not there yet, obviously, but for
Yeah.
1 gig, you know, then maybe that bluey sort of Star Wars.
Okay. I was just watching
Maybe.
Mandalorian a couple
Yeah.
days ago. Send this message, and a little hologram pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't thought much about holograms. That'll be interesting, though. It's amazing that you can even FaceTime over 5G as smoothly as you can.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You would think you would need
depends on
more.
both
You'd
end
think you would need
connections.
more than that, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's a crazy world. Technology is flying.
Well, it's exciting, though. I mean,
You
again,
need internet to fly with it.
what blows my mind mostly is that I look back, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so 20 years ago, 2003, FaceTime, or not FaceTime, but Facebook wasn't a thing. And almost all the stuff that is like a regular part of our lives right now, you were hardly, I don't even know if smartphones weren't even a thing yet at that point. So almost everything that's a part of our
Really?
regular life 20 years ago didn't exist.
I know, it's crazy. I'm only 37, and I think about everything that's changed in my life, and as quickly as it has, because the internet was slow as shit when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And then now, like, it's crazy fast. And from computers and dial-up and how small everything's gotten. Like,
Yeah.
it's weird, man.
Well, in the days we were started Super Pages, I mean, it was like if you're going to pull up a website, you want to make sure you select the non-image one because a picture is going to make that thing take a
forever.
minute to load at least, sometimes 5 minutes if it's a big picture. So it's all text. Your websites were all text because that loads faster. And this has progressively changed since then. But again, as the bandwidth goes, I believe the bandwidth is behind technology at this point. I think the technologies are in a lot of places.
Probably, yeah.
But they're just
People
waiting
just aren't,
Yeah.
putting it out there. Yeah, how about this? Have you, and this doesn't have anything to do with, well, kind of, but, have you ever looked into the whole, like, brain chips things? Have you guys seen anything like about that with what Elon Musk is doing with his Neuralink?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I've seen just a couple things. I mean, I'd have to educate myself more, to be honest with you. I've seen a couple things.
It's weird.
I actually can bring that all the way back to, it was late 90s, I believe. I was down in Dallas at GTE headquarters at the time, and they had a science lab down there. GTE Laboratories was at the headquarters, and went by. Some of the stuff they had in there was amazing. So that's the first time I saw one of the opaque walls. So it's a transparent glass wall, flip the switch. Now you've got a private conference room. The switch is off.
Those are cool.
They had just started working on the little grain of rice size thing that they can put in your hand and then monitor your heartbeat and all these different things for medical patients. So they had one kind of on display, and it was literally the size of a grain of rice down there. They had a keyboard. You could pull the little wand up, like set your cell phone down. Pull a little wand up, and it projects a laser keyboard down where you can type. And I'm surprised we haven't got that yet. I thought that one was one that was going to, be a reality by now. But but that was pretty slick.
Yeah, I've never tried one of those. Those have been around for actually a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, not to that extent, but I've never tried one. That's kind of a weird thing, but yeah, I know those have been around.
I kind of thought that was going to be a regular deal by now, but
you would think so. Save some space on your desktop.
Make
Turn
it
the
easier.
keyboard on. There we go.
I guess we proved too adept at using our thumbs. So.
Yeah. I had I remember having the old Windows smartphone, where or type on the actual little buttons before they did the touch screen. That was always weird. There's something about that though I kind of liked.
I like the little slide up.
Yeah, BlackBerry style. Yeah, there's something about that I like though. The physical typing on there, opposed to the touch screen, but didn't hold out.
Yeah, VP of the company I was with at that point, he switched before I did, and I had to ask him. I'm like, can you, how do you get your thumbs, that aren't that small onto these tiny little things? And he goes, you just get used to it.
It's actually amazing how well it works.
Yeah.
My thumbs aren't huge, but still.
You're still using the edges, when you're doing it.
Just knows where you're going, I guess. All right. Well, man, it was great having you guys on. Anything else you want to share? Best way to reach out to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the best way is always, my email, Demeion.collins@i3broadband.net, or you can call me at 217-331-0050. Swing to any of our offices, our footprint. Either I'm there or somebody knows how to get a hold of me. So, love to answer any questions anybody might have about i3 Broadband or fiber in general. That's going to be the best for us.
Speed up your internet.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Future-proof
it, because the future's coming. The future's coming. Are you ready?
Yeah,
that's really it.
That's true. They can't stop that. Progression is happening. All right, i3 Broadband. Check them out. Upgrade your internet. Get a little faster. A lot faster, depending on your situation.
Absolutely.
And man, it sounds like a pretty good situation, especially for residents not locked into a contract or nothing.
Yeah.
Real proud of what we've done.
Wow. No question about it.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys, and we'll see everybody on the next one.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.